That night, I suggested my daughter invite her boyfriend over for dinner with us. I thought it would be a great opportunity to get to know him better and observe how they interacted. My daughter quickly agreed, and everything seemed to go well. We sat down for a quiet dinner. Her boyfriend was charming and made my daughter laugh with his jokes. I noticed how they exchanged knowing glances, which made me happy because it was clear they loved each other and made a beautiful couple. After dinner, I casually mentioned that he could stay the night since it was late, and he lived far away. My daughter smiled in agreement, and he seemed to like the idea, but just when everything seemed perfect, I noticed something odd, a worried expression on my daughter's face, as if something was bothering her. Could it be related to her studies, or was there a problem in their relationship? I was concerned, but decided not to push her, preferring to wait until we could talk in private later. As we were washing the dishes, I couldn't shake off my concerns seeing her like that. I gently asked if everything was okay, and she hesitated before answering. With a sigh, she said her boyfriend had been looking at me in a way that made her uncomfortable. Although I had already noticed some glances from him, I tried to downplay it, suggesting he might just be nervous. However, she insisted that this wasn't the first time she had noticed it and began questioning his intentions. I was taken aback, and despite my best efforts to soothe her, I knew in my heart that his gaze was full of want. In fact, I felt a connection to him. As I asked her what she intended to do, but she simply shrugged and said that she wanted the relationship to succeed, but that she occasionally thought he was just like other men. I nodded carefully as I considered what she had said. Sweetheart, relationships are complicated, but the important thing is that both of you are willing to talk and compromise. Feeling jealous is normal, but we shouldn't place too much importance on it. She looked me in the eyes and hugged me. Thanks, Mom, you always know what to say. Even though I agreed with her words, I had already noticed how he seemed to pay more attention to me, as if my daughter wasn't even there. I noticed his subtle glances whenever I spoke. I remember well how he watched me that night. From the moment we sat down at the table, I felt his eyes fixed on me as if he was trying to communicate something. He was undoubtedly an attractive young man with his physique and smile that made him even more captivating. During dinner, he was an excellent conversationalist, speaking enthusiastically about his projects and future plans, and occasionally making me laugh with his jokes. It was clear he wanted to impress me, and he succeeded. In the middle of dinner, I made a joke saying that if I were younger, I might be attracted to him. I said it casually, but deep down I knew there was something more behind those words. He looked at me in a way that was hard to ignore, even for someone like me who had long moved past youthful passions. My daughter laughed, assuming it was just one of my typical jokes, but she was unaware that there was something darker going on behind my eyes and the questions I asked about his life and interests. I knew I shouldn't even entertain the possibility, but I knew I was getting into trouble. After my daughter and I had cleared the table and remained in the kitchen for a while, I tried to gather my thoughts. What was going on in my head? Was it just politeness and friendliness, or was there something more? I felt confused and a little guilty for even thinking about these possibilities, but I also realized how ridiculous it was. He was much younger than me, and aside from that, there was no way that we could have anything more than a friendly and cordial relationship. Nevertheless, I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to be with him, and I was picturing shaking my head to get rid of those thoughts, feeling a little ashamed for having gone so far in my mind. He was my daughter's boyfriend, and they were in a relationship, but I felt butterflies in my stomach, as if I wanted something to happen between him and me. My daughter and my son-in-law were chatting on the couch in the living room when I came back. I briefly envied them as they embraced, but even though he was my son-in-law, I couldn't deny that he was feeling something for me, making me feel like a wanted woman, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. He turned to me with a playful. My daughter gave me a quick glance, as if she knew what was on my mind, but she remained silent. He just came over to say goodbye and mentioned that they were going to bed after giving her a tired wave and a smile. "Thank you for inviting me to dinner. It was a really pleasant evening." I smiled back, trying not to let my thoughts wander into forbidden territory. "I'm very happy to have you here. You're always welcome in our home." I went up the stairs to my room. It had been a pleasant but exhausting evening, and I couldn't help but feel a little tense with everything I had felt between him and me. I didn't know what was going to happen, so I relaxed, took off my shoes, and headed straight to the bathroom with the intention of taking a relaxing shower before bed. I needed some alone time to think about and process everything that had happened during dinner, and as the warm water ran over my body, I started to feel the day's tension subsided. I closed my eyes and allowed my mind to wander in an attempt to calm my thoughts and emotions, but something inside me remained restless, as if something more was about to happen. Suddenly, I felt a strange sensation, as if someone was watching me. I opened my eyes and looked around the bathroom steam, but there was no one else there. I dismissed the idea, telling myself it was a figment of my imagination. I made an effort to ignore the cold that was running down my spine and keep taking a shower, but it felt like someone was silently observing me. He was the boyfriend of my daughter. After taking a shower and wrapping myself in a towel, I decided to quickly check the hallway before returning to my room to make sure everything was in order. I wondered if he was still awake and if he had been watching me through the keyhole. This thought made me smile and gave me a sneaking suspicion that he was spying on me, but I also considered the possibility that it might have been an accident. I chose not to ask at the time because I didn't want to come across as intrusive or hurried. Perhaps it was just my imagination. I went to my room, got dressed, and made an effort to ignore those place F thoughts. But the question remained, was he spying on me, or was it just a coincidence? Exhaustion overcame me, and I fell into a deep sleep, even though everything hadn't ended yet. In the middle of my dream, I felt a gentle touch on my shoulder. At first, I thought it was just a dream, but the touch was so real that I couldn't ignore it. I lay down and eventually fell asleep, but the strange feeling from the bathroom and my thoughts about my son-in-law were still there. My son-in-law was standing by the bed with a cheeky grin when I cautiously opened my eyes in an attempt to see through the room's darkness. I was shocked to learn that he had come into my room while my daughter was sleeping. I asked him, in a playful attempt to maintain my composure, "What are you doing here?" He watched me for a few moments and then said, "You know she's asleep, and I think we should take advantage of it," without saying anything more. In the darkness of my room, we embraced, forgetting everything else. Right and wrong didn't matter in that moment. We just wanted to lose ourselves. I took his hand, and he moved closer. At that moment, we gave in to the deep desire, allowing all the tension that had built up between us to explode. A wave of electricity ran through my entire body. It was so strong that it numbed me, and I couldn't handle it. His vitality, I suggested that he go back to his room after spending some time with me because my daughter might wake up at any time. He understood, quickly packed his belongings, said goodbye, and left. I, on the other hand, lay there with a contented smile, processing what had just happened. I know that he is my son-in-law, and that what we did could be seen by many as a betrayal, but I let my impulses get the better of me at that moment. I acknowledge that I made a mistake by letting things get to this point. I shouldn't have allowed him into my room, let alone allowed the situation to get out of control. Despite the fact that it was a mistake, it was also a powerful moment when my son-in-law made me feel alive and gave me a desire I hadn't felt in a long time.